So, Charlie, explain what the left is doing. And they're doing it openly, but no one really is covering this in the detail that it should be covered because it changes everything overnight.
That's correct. And so ever since Donald Trump won the presidency, the left has been enacting several full frontal assaults on our core institutions. That's why they enacted the Russia hoax via Mueller. This is why they've continued the propaganda campaign in the media. But most importantly, one of the components that hasn't gotten much media coverage at all is how the Democrats realized that the system of which we elect a president needs to change. That the system of decentralized elections, the system that gives a voice to middle America, not Manhattan and Malibu, that system is a barrier, is a hindrance towards their quest for total control and for deconstruction of our country and for redefinition of our country. So what am I talking about here? They want to get rid of the Electoral College. Sorry, go ahead.
So, Charlie, explain to people, because there's a lot of people, especially your age, that say, hey, we want a democracy. People are screaming for that now in Europe. Direct vote, direct democracy. Make the case to those who are in the cities who believe differently and believe in democracy, because they've been raised thinking that's what we are. Make the case that that's a bad thing.
Happy to. So first of all, we're not a democracy. That's one of the most important things we have to teach the next generation. Bernie Sanders says it almost every single day, and we fall into this linguistic trap. We almost begin to believe the lies of the left that we are a democracy. We're a constitutional republic, and we use the democratic means to elect individuals and representatives. Now, what's the difference? A constitutional republic recognizes certain natural rights that can't be taken away just because the mob wants those to be taken away. And in the Federalist Papers, the Founding Fathers realized and recognized the potential danger of the tyranny of the mob. One of the big historical fallacies that is taught to students is that America was the first exercise in quote-unquote democracy. That's just not true. It was tried many times before. Cicero, who I believe is the most important thinker and writer, who was consul of Rome for 1 year, warned against the tyranny of the majority, warned against that total outright mobocracy, essentially, would turn into class warfare. He argued that the middle class needs representation that first and foremost recognizes their natural rights. And so what the Electoral College has done over a long period of time is it forces the states, first of all, it recognizes the sovereignty of the states. It recognizes that the states created the federal government did not create the states. And it allows the states to appropriate their electors as they see fit. Now, this is really important because each state might have a different way that they want to send their electors to the Electoral College. So, for example, 2 states right now, Maine and Nebraska, they carve out one of their congressional districts that allow the winner of that congressional district to maybe be different than the entire voice of the state. So, for example, Donald Trump won a singular electoral vote in Maine in 2016. In 2008, Barack Obama won a singular electoral vote in Nebraska when he won that eastern Nebraska congressional seat, when he won that. Now, what does that mean? It means that voices that otherwise would not have had as big of a platform all of a sudden are now competitive in the national election and discourse. And what's happening now is actually predicted and prophesied by the Founding Fathers in the Federalist Papers and the construction of our country, where you have the exacerbation of the coastal elites that want to then enact their viewpoint and their ivory tower philosopher king agenda over middle America and middle class America. And that's most important because the needs and wants of Malibu and Manhattan are not the needs and wants of Michigan and Missouri. So how do we peacefully go about this without turning ourselves into factions and pitting people against each other? Well, the only way you could possibly come to compromise and build big base coalitions is through the decentralization of elections, which is what the Electoral College offers. And you look at other countries that just have straight mobocracies, as I call it. It's not going so well, is it? For example, in France, no one can possibly say that the ideas that were rooted in the French Revolution have been better for human freedom and prosperity than the ideas rooted in the American Revolution or the Scottish Enlightenment. And what we have right now is the left realizes that the idea of decentralized control, the protection of the individual and states' rights, it is a hindrance. It's almost an annoyance and an obstacle for them to be able to get the power that they wish that they want to get. And so what they're doing right now, just to talk very specifically, Glenn, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this with your audience, because this is not theory. This is not something, the left wants to do this. The left is doing this, and they're getting help from far too many Republicans.
And they're close.
I would venture a guess that many people in your audience don't know that 15 states have already passed what's called the Interstate National Vote Compact. What does that mean? 15 states have essentially passed through the state legislators and signed by the governor, agreeing that their electoral votes will be given to the winner of the national popular vote. So in short, the left, with the help of far too many Republicans, it tends to be a trend, isn't it, Glenn? It seems like Republicans tend to agree to go along with the left far too often. They have realized that they're not going to be able to get this through Congress, that they're not going to be able to get this to the House of Representatives or through a constitutional amendment. So instead, they saw their window to go through the states. Since the states are allowed to appropriate their electors however they see fit, it could be on how they do it now, or they could do it how Nebraska does it, or they could do it as something
any way they want.
Whoever wins the World Series. If it could be, that's silly. So
what the left is trying to do is perfectly legal. It's perfectly constitutional and perfectly legal.
I would believe so. There are some scholars that think it isn't. I actually don't agree. I actually think it's perfectly legal. I think the framers allowed this sort of window to go through the states. It's hard. It's difficult. Now, let's talk specifically. It's already passed 15 states, Glenn. Now, this does not go into action until they hit that magical 270 number, that 270 number. They're right at about 200 right now. And on Wednesday, 2 days ago, Oregon just signed it into law. So I want you to think about that. This is sweeping the country. Now, the Democrat governor of Nevada, Steve Sisolak, vetoed it a week and a half ago. Good on him. He has more bravery than most Republicans. A Democrat governor of Nevada, it accelerated to the House and to the Senate, and he surprisingly vetoed it. This is now being discussed in states such as Maine, Minnesota, North Carolina, and Ohio. They are 70 votes away from changing the way that we elect a president.